the USC Trojans. For EA Sports College Football, I'm Reese Davis, joined here in the booth by a couple. The Trojans will get us underway with the opening kickoff. He'll bring it back from inside his 5. Didn't find any crease in that kickoff coverage, and he'll be stopped at the 17. So Hawaii's offense will go on the attack first. This wide receiver matchup is one that we've been waiting to see. You have two guys on either side, Jesse, who are really going to make the secondaries nervous.
Oh, they should, because these guys can take the top off of defense. You've got two very dynamic individuals playing on each offense, and if I'm playing quarterback in this game for either team, I am going to take my shots and give my guy an opportunity, because both of these guys, they've proven they can make circus-level catches.
I mean, when they're not open, they're open. I mean, they can make the dynamic catches, the contested catches. They have the speed. They are two of the best playmakers in all of the country. So whenever an offense has the football today, you're going to like the show.
Looking downfield, it's Fafita. Pressure coming. And he just throws it away. That is not what you're looking for on third down. Fourth down coming up. And the Rainbow Warriors send out the punt unit. The punter going to get his first work of the afternoon. And the punt team gets down there and gets the return man on the ground. The Trojans offense will take the field for the first time. And they are coming off a sensational performance led by this quarterback who's hoping he can build on things, Jesse.
Well, I know, having played the position, when you have a big game, you just can't wait to get back out there again and build on that performance. David, last time out, he was making the right reads. He showed off his arm talent. He had this offense moving up and down the field and finding the end zone. And you know he's excited to take on this defense today.
Yeah, and talking to the defensive coordinators coming to this football game, like, they're not going to do what happened last week. Like, you can't sit back and make the coverages easy for him to diagnose. He'll pick you apart like he did last week. Look for some change-ups and some curveballs for this defense.
Man down on the play as the officials take a break to let him be checked out.
I like the decision there in the RPO game too, guys. I know he only got a couple of yards, but that play's going to open up bigger opportunities throwing the football down the field in the RPO game too. So keep handing it off to this guy. Let him see what he can do. And when the defense gives you the look to hold the football and then finally throw it, that's when you take advantage.
They'll give it to the back. Stopped in the backfield, and that'll be a loss of 2. And the Trojans trying to find their way forward after the big loss on the last play. The give to the running back from the shotgun. Breaks into the open. And a nice run there before the defense finally makes the stop. Ball just inside the 40 at the 39. It's third and short. Back to pass. It's Madsen. Fires to the wideout. And good use of the hands from the defense to deflect the pass on third down. And they're running out the kicker to give it a try. He says he's got a big leg. He's going to have to show it from 56 yards out. He slides that just inside the right upright. And with that, they break the seal on the scoring. It's 3-0. So after the made field goal, they'll kick it away and rely on their defense. On the run from inside his own 5. Didn't find any crease in that kickoff coverage, and he'll be stopped at the 17. Hawaii ready to go back to work on offense. They went 3 and out on their first possession. Now to see if they can be more productive this time. Lose yardage on that play, able to wedge it back to the line of scrimmage. Out of the gun, the inside handoff, looking for a crease. Get some work done there. Pick up a 4 to the 22. Looks as if we have an injury on that last play, and we'll take a break to check him out. Better find the earplugs. Here comes the noise, backing this defense on third down. From the gun, wants to pass. Complete to the left. To the 43-yard line, and a first down for this offense. The Rainbow Warriors come to the line with a fresh set of downs. Offense lines up for a 1st and 10 from the 43. On On the run, it's Paul. Not much running room there thanks to this senior defender. And the Rainbow Warriors moving quickly to the line.
A nice job being gap sound by this defense. And here you go. Watch what this offense does. They'll get right back on the ball, and they'll go really quick, so you've got to be prepared.
And he'll lose yardage on this play. Loses 2 yards. Great job by the defense. Back to throw. It's Fafita. Under fire. Oh, and he got drilled as he just got rid of the football. The Rainbow Warriors will send out the punt unit. That last howitzer was nice. How about another one just like it? That thing was down for a while, but the big bounce carried it into the end zone, and it'll be a touchback. And guys, USC has the ball back and sending the offense onto the field. So they've put up some early points, and now to build on this 3-0 lead. And a good job of coverage by that defense, just a short pickup. So now it's 2nd and long. Quarterback on the keeper. A solid pickup there before the defense is able to make the stop. Man down on the play as the officials take a break to let him be checked out. The Trojans come to the line on 3rd down, trying to keep this drive alive. He'll pull it on the read. All down, but he has enough to move the chains. The analytics nerds will tell you that a 4-yard pickup on 1st down is a successful play. Let's see what they have. Turning it on. Picks up the 1st down. They get him stopped and out of bounds at the 45-yard line, and the big play has this offense ready to mount a threat. Caught over the middle. It's Jordan. Nice gain on that play, but a little bit short of the 1st down. And the Trojans in a good spot here with 2nd and short. Wants to go up top. Grab behind the line. It's Jordan. They'll stop him just short of the 1st down marker on the screen. They'll snap it from the 48 on 3rd and short. They'll try to get it through the air. Makes the catch. It's Jordan. Really nice pickup on that one as they get it to the 36. It'll be 1st down. Passing game kept this drive moving. Let's see if they try it again. Dropping back, it's Madsen. Bringing the heat. Can't find the man, and he'll be knocked down at the 40.
And they get to the quarterback and get the sack. That's a big emphasis for this defense. They saw a week ago, this offense gave up 3 sacks. They need to get to him early and often and create some indecision. Nice job getting a sack early in this football.
Quickly to the tight end. They make the stop. Not a whole lot of ground picked up there, and they'll have work to do to get the 1st down. They'll move the wide receiver. On 3rd down, he drops to throw. Here's a heat. Snagged out of the air. He's brought down, but there's a flag on the field. Let's see what the call is.
Hold.
They'll decline the penalty here and let the result of that play stand. They'll send out the kicker to try to salvage this drive. Looks as if this will be a 51-yard attempt. Right down the boulevard, it's good. The lead is 6 in the 1st.
How about it? 50-plus, no problem. Big leg, nice accuracy. That's a big-time kick for this young man.
Not a whole lot of room to operate on that return as the coverage unit was there and ready. He wastes no time and comes out throwing. The screen, and watch out. And they pick up just a few on that completion. And the Rainbow Warriors racing to the line in a hurry up.
On defense, man, it helps you a lot when you can be a linebacker or a corner or safety, anybody, and you see the QB throw the football. Now I can break on the football right away and limit gains like right here on this play.
And it'll be incomplete. This is some physical pass defense. Here comes this home crowd as the defense tries to get off the field on 3rd down. Gets it out quickly. Got room at the 35. There he goes. certainly saved a touchdown after he ripped off a huge gain.
That's what's so scary about this offense. They've got guys in the perimeter that can change the game in one single play, and you saw it right there. Too much speed on the perimeter to create that explosive play.
Use the play fake, now to throw. Unloads to the wideout. Working a little foot magic on the sidelines, and it'll be enough for the first down. Off the play fake. Fires to the middle. It's picked off, and they ruin the drive with a turnover. Bringing it back. He'll be stopped, but not before getting the football and picking up big yardage on the return. What a play there. So first play in the drive coming here from their own 49. From the gun, they'll try to impose their will.
Man, it's nice when you can depend on your big boys up front to make a lane, and you get 5 or 6 yards. You get 5 or 6 yards a pop. You move the ball down the field easily, and more important...
And the ball is out. Who's going to get it? Bounced right back to them.
Get so excited. You force the fumble. I'm going to get a turnover. And the offense fouls me.
Looking to throw, it's Madsen. And that's incomplete. A defender all over him. Knocked the ball to the ground. Fourth down coming up. The Trojans will call on their punt team. He'll try to really get into this one. And that is textbook instructional video. Out of bounds right around the goal line. Hand off from the shotgun. And I think he got back to the 2-yard line, but the defense was ready for the run. As they get set to snap it, just about to reach the end of the quarter. Fires to the big fella. And they'll make the stop, and we are headed to the end of the first period. That's the end of the period, and USC has the lead. We've put one in the books. Let's have a look at our game summary. Now to see if these guys can get back in the game as we open the second quarter. So they had a chance to talk over this third down play to open the period. From the gun, the ground game. And they did not let him reach the line to gain. It'll bring up a decision here. The Rainbow Warriors will try to pin them back with the punt. So from the shadow of his goalpost, he gets the punt away. He'll make the fair catch at the 44, and they'll have terrific field position. This Trojan offense is ready to go back to work. They've had a couple of drives bogged down, had to settle for field goals, and now they'll try to get it into the end zone this time. Looks as if we have an injury on that last play, and we'll take a break to check him out. Plenty of distance between them and the sticks here on second down. Back to throw, it's Madsen. Oh, they're after him. Quarterback feeling that pressure, and he's knocked down at the 42.
And they've been waiting for something good to happen with respect to getting after the quarterback, right? They're outside of the top 100 in the country in sacks per game, but finally now you see they're generating this pass rush. 3 sacks on the game so far.
Now a lot of work to do to move the chains, keep this drive alive after that earlier sack. Leaves it with the back. Collisions and power on display, and after all of that, just back to the line of scrimmage. And the Trojans will punt it away on fourth down. This will be the second time they've had to kick it away. He'll get it out to about the 20-yard line, and that's where they'll mark him down. The Hawaii offense returns to the field. They didn't get much done the last time they had it. Had to punt it away from deep in their own territory, hoping this drive will be more productive. Working that left side now.
The thing I like about this slot receiver, he's really intentional in his route run. The quarterback always knows exactly where he's going to be on the field. They've got great chemistry.
He's got his man across the middle. Good, solid pickup on that one. They've got it out to the 40, and it's first down.
A nice passing game by this offense. The quarterback and the receiver on the same page, in time, in rhythm, creates the big play. And look at them. They're right back on the football, ready to run another play.
That is a big win for this defense as they were right there as soon as he got the ball.
Nice job by this defense creating that negative play. That's what all defenses want to do. But look at this. This offense, they ain't scared. Right back on the ball, ready to run another play, ready to make this defense work.
Decibels rising as the crowd gets behind this defense on third down. Looking to pass. It's Fafita. He'll off one deep down the left side. And they wanted it all on third down, but now dealing with fourth down. And the Rainbow Warriors will bring the punt team onto the field. Hauls it in, looking for space. Pretty solid coverage there, and they'll stop him at the 26. Man down on the play as the officials take a break to let him be checked out. And guys, USC has the ball back and sending the offense onto the field. They'll have another opportunity to extend this lead after punting last time, David.
And it's important to put that punt behind you. It's over. Let it go. Get back to what you were doing that built this lead.
Yeah, and defense, obviously, they won a few downs that last drive, so you got to put them on their heels here. Maybe mix up a few personnel groupings and try to show them some pictures they haven't seen yet.
Right down the middle. Can't hang on, is incomplete. I think he was bracing for the hit and didn't hang on to the football. They'll go back to the air on second down. Under pressure, and down he goes at the 33.
Man, this offense, they gotta find something. They gotta get in a rhythm somehow. So far, no success, not protecting the quarterback. Really, the only good thing I can say so far is they haven't turned the football over.
Now a lot of work to do to move the chains, keep this drive alive after that earlier sack. On third and long, he's going to have to turn one loose downfield. And good coverage by the defense, just a short gain. The Trojans will punt this one away. He's got it. They'll get down and put a stop to the return at about the 28-yard line. Hawaii has it back as they send the offense onto the field. That last drive won't go on the highlight reel after ending in a punt. They'd like to be more productive this time, David.
And I think this offense has to be a little bit more balanced. Find a little balance between the run, Jesse, and working in that pass.
And I think, too, David, it's just going to take a spark. It just takes one play to get this thing picked up and going.
Offenses love the explosive plays through the air, pushing the ball down the field. And look at this. Sometimes it creates some momentum.
And the quarterback runs out of time, and down he goes at the 38.
Play-action pass success has a lot to do with selling that fake. You could tell defense was not buying it, got in the backfield, got the big play.
The Rainbow Warriors have put themselves in dire straits after that last play. It's second and a mile. Dropping back, it's Fafita. And the pass is incomplete, jarred loose by the hit. Wow, this offense is doing nothing. They've already punted 4 times and staring at the possibility of a fifth. The short hands, it's Paul. He is denied, cannot get to the first down marker, and it's fourth down coming. And the Rainbow Warriors will line up to punt it away. They've been busy out there to punt for the 5th time today. Let's see if they can get something going here late in the half. He'll do it himself. This junior making his presence felt and making the stop after a short gain. Working well behind the sticks on second down. Back in motion, try to clear the picture. Caught in the backfield, it's Jordan. He is going nowhere. Stop at the line of scrimmage. Ball's at the 29. Defense can taste getting off the field. It's 3rd and long. Got it in the middle. It's Bussey. Ripping off a pretty good chunk of yardage. They've got it out to the 41 with the first down. And the Trojans come to the line with a new set of downs. Out of the gun. The running back has it. They'll knock him down for a loss of a couple. We've reached the 2-minute timeout, and they'll talk it over to see if they can build on this lead before halftime. The play-action fake. Here's the shuffle pass. It's complete. He's brought down quickly. Minimal gain there. Still a bit short of the first down. Got quite a ways to go to keep this drive going. It's 3rd down from the 45. Oh, he had it. The deep ball was there, and it just trickled through his fingers. The Trojans line up to punt it away. Let's see if he can help the coverage team out with this one. Boy, they had a chance to track that thing down, but it bounces into the end zone for a touchback. Plenty of time left in the half here as they take over, but they will want to be efficient here in the final 2 minutes. Not a whole lot of progress made there on the short run. Wants to throw. It's Fafita. Hauls it in. He'll get a fresh set of downs stopped at the 31-yard line. We got a timeout here late in the first half, and they'll try to get more points on the board before the break. Looking for a crease. It's Paul. There he goes. And he's to the 48-yard line. That'll be good enough for a first down. The Rainbow Warriors in the hurry-up. Wants to throw on first down. Pocket breaking down. He'll try to do it himself. As they say, touchdown, first down, or get down. He gets down. They'll go to work in the air on second down. And the quarterback will be slung down back at the 43. Here's a timeout on the field. Tight game here late in the first half. Now a lot of work to do to move the chains, keep this drive alive after that earlier sack. Got it behind the line. It's Stanley. Didn't have much room to run and not a whole lot of help. Short gain there. Still plenty of ground to cover for the first down. Quick timeout by the defense there, trying to make sure everyone has the same call. A fairly short distance here toward the sidelines. Not his best work. Looking downfield on first down. Rush coming in hot, and they got him at the 29. They've already racked up big sack numbers. It's starting to snowball, and they are ready to go again. He'll keep it himself. He'll be brought down, and that's the final play of the half. First half in the books. Time now to join Kevin Connors in our halftime update.
Guys, looks like we've had a compelling start to things there in Los Angeles. And yes, football is a game of inches, but man, is that really the case when you consider the length of some of these possessions. Look, I'm not an analytics guy, but I do know this. The team that sustains drives and just moves the sticks might be the team that comes out on top today. With that said, let's send it back to the guys at the LA Coliseum.
And the Rainbow Warriors will kick it away to start the second half. And he takes this from inside the 5. Nice job by the kickoff team. Everybody stayed in their lanes, and they'll stop him at the 16. This Trojan offense is ready to go back to work. They go to work in the third quarter with the lead, but they have had a little trouble keeping their quarterback upright.
Yeah, and you have the lead, you're positive, but the offensive line coach is definitely going to be upset. And the offensive coordinator, listen, I don't want my guy getting touched. He's being productive, but give him some more time here in the second half.
I think you can do that, too, offensively, by maybe leaving your tight end in to help block, maybe chipping with running backs to help these tackles out on the edge, because you're right. That pocket has been shaky, and if it continues to be that way in the second half, this could be a much different-looking football game.
They'll put it in play from the 27, first down. Looking for room. It's Jordan. Sweet cut there. Forced out of bounds. Good pickup there on the ground. And the Trojans with myriad options after that big pickup on first down. Power football with the run. Still on his feet at the 45. And they don't drag him down until he gets all the way to the 46-yard line. The Trojans want to move quickly.
And how about the running back, man? Rips off a big play. This offense creates some momentum, and what do? They keep their foot on the gas, right back on the football to try to keep this offense rolling.
Backed up now. From the gun, they'll try to impose their running game. This junior making his presence felt and making the stop after a short gain. Scanning the field, it's Madsen. Looking down the middle. Intercepted, and that's not how you want to start a half. They bring him down, but that great defensive play might be overturned. Let's see what the call is. This offense needs all the help they can get today, and that pass interference penalty is a much-appreciated lifeline. To the air on first down. Makes the grab on the back. Down to the 16-yard line, it's 1st and 10.
Great job by the offense. Listen, if the defense is going to sit back in zone, you know what you got to do. Run those crossers across the formation. Those guys that are looking at the quarterback, they're not trying to pick up receivers all the time. Make those precise throws right in those holes. Get those first downs. Get those big chunks.
Trying to hit him with a quick game on first down, and nothing doing there. Second down, they'll go to the air. And he really needed to hold on to that one, but it was not loose, and third down is coming. Trying to pick up a first down. On third and long, no secret what he needs here. And they weren't able to make the connection. They were looking for an explosive play. So here comes the field goal unit. They've been doing work today. They've already made a couple. It's good. They're now up 9-0.
And that's a really good response by this defense. Their offense throws an interception, puts them in bad field position. They respond with a stop, force a field goal. Yeah, they got 3 points, but great job by this defense.
Here he comes from inside his own 5. Nice job by the kickoff team. Everybody stayed in their lanes, and they'll stop him at the 16. Hawaii ready to go back to work on offense. The run from the shotgun. And this one will be stopped for no gain. Didn't get much on first down. It's 2nd and 9. Dropping back, it's Fafita. Finds his big tight end. And the defense holds firm. No pickup at all on that play. On third and long, trying to have a big completion here. Makes the grab. It's Paul. He'll have the first down as he gets it to the 28-yard line before he's stopped. Looks as if we have an injury on that last play, and we'll take a break to check him out. The Rainbow Warriors with the 1st and 10. Looking to throw on first down. That's reeled in. It's Paul. And he's able to bounce off one tackle for a solid pickup. And the Rainbow Warriors are in the hurry-up.
This guy's done a lot of good things early this year throwing the football. With that last completion, that now takes him over 1,000 yards passing for the year.
He snuffed out behind the line again, went right back to the well and got the same bad result. Shotgun snap, wants to throw it on third. Those two not on the same page. It's incomplete. The Rainbow Warriors decide to punt it away. Pretty solid coverage there, and they'll stop him at the 26. And guys, USC has the ball back and sending the offense onto the field. He wants to start this drive with a pass. Finds his big tight end. And the big fella couldn't elude the cornerback who makes a sure tackle. Behind the chains now on 2nd and long. Rides the back on the option to give. Couldn't find a lane. A pickup of 1 to the 31. And now on 3rd down after that last run. Out of the gun to give to the back. He's going to lose a yard on that one. And the Trojans send out the punt unit. They may have to pay him overtime. He's punting for the 5th time today. He'll get away another punt. He's been really active today, and no doubt he's going to earn his varsity letter. So, guys, we'll get another look at this offense. Gives it on the option. Shakes off the defender. These little gains can start to add up as he gets it up to the 34. And the Rainbow Warriors can really attack on this 2nd and short. They'll keep it on the ground. He's knocked down behind the line of scrimmage again, and this just hasn't been his day. Nowhere to run. To throw, it's Fafita. Gets it out fast. And he'll have enough for the 1st down at the 42. Here's this offense with a fresh set of downs.
Well, we know this guy is special, and because of that, his quarterback is looking to him on critical down and distances. There on that 3rd down, there was no question. It wouldn't have mattered if he was single covered, double covered, man, zone. That's where he was going with it, and the big-time playmaker outside picks up the 1st.
And this offense is desperate to keep this drive alive, trailing by multiple possessions, and it's getting late. Using the back as a receiver on the screen. Oh, he's got some space. He's going to come up a couple of yards short of the 1st down. They'll try to quiet this crowd by moving the sticks on 4th down. Plucks it out of the air. A quick tackle made, but he's got plenty for the 1st down. The Rainbow Warriors come to the line in the hurry-up. You talk about taking the wind out of a crowd. A 4th down conversion will do that.
Yeah, they were jacked up in here, excited. The fans get loud, rush the passer, and how about the conversion? The big 4th down conversion here in the 3rd quarter to give yourself some life in a tight ball game.
Intercepted. Big play stops the drive. Taking it the other way. Touchdown, USC. What momentum you get when the defense comes up with a play like that. These guys are really hitting their stride in week 4 as they push out that lead.
And this is exactly what you dream about for a defense. Forcing the big turnover, making the pick, and then putting points on the board yourself. Great play by the defense.
Lining up to tack one more onto that lead. And the extra point splits the uprights. Let's go to the studio now and check in with Kevin Connors. Kevin, what do you got?
Guys, it is now a final in the Big Ten and a game I think a lot of folks will want to see. Missouri came through with a lunch pail hard hat performance, and the end result is an eye-opening road victory. And I guess it's not so much that they won, it's more how they won. And the fact this wasn't ever really in question. Iron sharpens iron, and you just know a Big Ten matchup like this is going to go a long way in telling the story of each of these teams' seasons.
Kevin, thanks a lot for that one. Sounds as if they had a good one there. Better find the earplugs. Here comes the noise, backing this defense on 3rd down. Looking for a man. It's Fafita. Get it out on the screen. Really nice job to get it past the sticks, pick up the 1st down at the 30. And the Rainbow Warriors come to the line with a fresh set of downs. Looking to throw on 1st down. Oh, he's going to try to get it all here. Oh, he dropped it. That deep ball was right on the money. You just have to make that catch.
And that's a big shot, and that's a big incompletion, but this offense has to continue to do more of that. When you're trailing and you've got to make plays, they got to find creative ways to push this ball down the field and get this offense in a flow.
Not much running room there thanks to this senior defender. As they get set to snap it, time winding down here in the quarter. On 3rd and long, he's going to have to throw for it. And it's picked off for the 3rd time today. And he's wrapped up after a solid return on the pick.
Coming out of the tunnel in the 3rd quarter, this quarterback now is really struggling with his decision-making. 2 picks here in the 3rd quarter. This looks like Jekyll and Hyde from what we saw in the first half.
Well, and the bad thing is they're going to be in passing situations. They're coming from behind. They're going to need him to play better. Like, he's going to have to read the field better and make some plays if they want to get back in this football game.
As we head to the quarter break, it is USC holding the lead. This has been utter domination through 3 quarters, and the stats will back that up. One more period to go, and we'll see just how much fight they've got left in them. It'll be 2nd down as we open the final stanza. From the gun. Give on the inside. Across the 25 to the 24-yard line before he stopped. Pick up a 5 and a 1st down. Holds and fires complete to the right. Man down on the play as the officials take a break to let him be checked out. The Trojans look to do some damage in the red zone. Looking downfield, it's Madsen. Got out of trouble, got rid of it. Got his man. And the defense settled in to stop that one for a short gain. And the Trojans come to the line on 3rd and short, looking to keep the drive moving. To the ground to try to move the chains. Touchdown, Trojans! And the stomping has commenced. With that, the lead nice and comfortable, and they're cruising toward a 4-0 start. Follow the blockers. The offensive line will take you to the hallelujah land.
And I tell you what, most of the time, Reese, it requires a little bit of skill to find that hole and slither through a little crack. That was not a crack. That was wide open. Didn't take a lot of vision because the blocking was outstanding.
And the extra point is good. They're set to kick it off, and this crowd now ready to get behind them. And it'll be a touchback. The ball will come out to the 25-yard line. The Hawaii offense returns to the field. It's a good thing to be charitable, Jesse, but I think the last couple of drives might be overdoing it a bit.
I agree, and I think at this point, David, the quarterback here, he's got to be a CEO, and he's got to really get his guys settled down. A couple turnovers in a row. Now they've got to find a rhythm.
A CEO, a.k.a. don't screw it up, young man. That's what it sounds like on the sidelines with the coaches. We got to stop turning the football.
And they get to the quarterback and knock him down back at the 16.
The game plan was simple on defense. They had to find a way to contain one of the best quarterbacks in all of college football. And guys, not only have they contained him, they've completely shut him down. This offense has no points in this game. Remarkable job by the defense.
Now 3rd and long, and trying to play catch-up in more ways than one after that earlier sack. Looking to throw, it's Fafita. Tight end finds a soft spot. He stopped short, and it's 4th down. He's going to come up about 5 yards short of the line to gain. Motion from the back. They're throwing for it on 4th down. Here comes the heat. And it is another interception. Just a terrible struggle for this quarterback. He goes down after the short return, but what a play to get the football back. This Trojan offense is ready to go back to work. How about the way they attacked the last time they had the ball, mixing run and pass and winding up in the end zone, Jesse?
That's why recruiting is so important. They've got weapons at every skill position on the field. Any of these guys is dangerous if they touch the football. Let's see what they do on this drive, David.
And so, Coleman, I got to take away something. I can't let them have everything and have success. I got to be aggressive against the run or play for the pass. I can't give them everything.
Defense trying to come up with a stop on 3rd and short from the 37. From the gun, wants to pass. Makes the grab. It's Bussey. They'll make the stop about a yard short of the first down. This kicker's leg is getting a workout. He's already made 3 field goals, and here he comes again. Absolutely perfect. And they'll push that lead out a little further. Looks as if we have an injury on that last play, and we'll take a break to check him out. That lead just keeps getting fatter, and this kickoff team doing a little running. He'll bring it out. It's White. Nothing wrong with the touchback, and they wish they had one right now, but he stopped at the 9-yard line. Rides the back and leaves it on the option. And he never had a chance, just stopped cold as soon as he got it. Man down on the play as the officials take a break to let him be checked out. After getting knocked back to open this drive, it's 2nd and 12. Quarterback on the keeper. Oh, what a move. A solid run there to create a little space. He's marked down at the 15. The Rainbow Warriors really need to keep this drive alive on 3rd down. To the air, it's Fafita. Snagged in the middle, it's Harris. It'll be a first down as he gets it to the 24-yard line. Looks as if we have an injury on that last play, and we'll take a break to check him out. And the Rainbow Warriors will snap it on 1st and 10. Wants to go up top on 1st down. And the pressure gets there. And down he goes at the 18.
Man, and the defense comes up with the sack. And this is the day. This is honestly not what we expected. We expected this to be a high-flying offense. You know, this trigger man is usually really, really on top of things. This is a day he would love to forget.
Rainbow Warriors with a long way to go after the loss on the last play. 2nd down, they'll go to the air. And he feels the heat coming, and it burns him up. Another sack.
And this defense came to play. They know about the high-profile QB. They rose to the challenge and dominated the competition today. They took care of business, and they made no doubt about who's the better football team.
With the catch, it's Martin. Out across the 20, they'll mark him out of bounds right at the 21-yard line. Coach has no choice here. The offense has to stay on the field, down multiple possessions this late. 4th down attempt coming. Downfield and incomplete. The defense holds. This offense has it with really good field position. They'll run it, trying to drain time off the clock.
And here's the mindset if you're on offense. 4th quarter, you've got a huge lead. Obviously, you're going to run the football, but just be aware of the clock. You don't want to snap it too quickly. You're probably just doing safe runs inside the tackles like you saw right there. You just got to execute. You got to be aware, but you've got this game in hand so long as you don't turn it over.
A 1st down run in the red zone. And there was nowhere to go, just stopped in his tracks in the backfield. To the air, it's Madsen. Sets up the screen. And that did not work. Defense smelled that one out from the beginning. Man down on the play as the officials take a break to let him be checked out. It's 3rd and goal and 3rd and long. Looking downfield, and he needs a bunch. Pass rush, gets there, gets home, gets him down at the 23. And on fourth down, they'll try to salvage the drive with a field goal. He needs to make sure those mechanics are pure from the right hash and 40 yards away. Absolutely perfect. And that lead grows even bigger.
And they just tack on more points to this big lead. Listen, fourth quarter was sitting extremely pretty. All we got to do, not give up big plays, make them earn everything they get the rest this way, and we looking pretty good.
The drive starts from their own 25-yard line. They'll start this drive going to the air. And it's incomplete. If you're going to take a hit like that, you might as well hang on to the ball. Plenty of work to do here on second and long. Back to pass. Not in lockstep there with the receiver. Probably the toughest call on the play sheet. Third and long. Ball's at the 25. From the gun, wants to pass. Finds his man down the middle. Doesn't quite make it to the first down marker. He's a yard short. Down by multiple possessions. They can't come up empty on this drive in the fourth quarter. They'll go for it on fourth down. He's not going to make it, and what a big stop for this defense, and they might be able to put this thing away. Powers through the defender.
And I'm a fan of this, man. Run the football, eat the clock. We got the lead. This offense has put together a nice day, man. Like just balance, rhythm, timing, play calling, everything has worked. That's why they built this lead. They've had a great day today.
And the defense makes the stop after a minimal gain. They're within field goal range at the 29. Let's see if they can pick up a few or the first down on third and long. Motion from the wideout. Running back searching for a hole. He's not going to make it. What a job by this defense to stop him in his tracks. This is what you're looking for when you have the better team. Go out and show it. Don't fool around with them. Go out and play to a standard of excellence.
Just dominate. You know you're going to take care of business. You know you're going to win. It's like how many? How many can I win by? And I like that you keep your foot on the gas and just continue to pile it on. It's their job to stop you. Let them do their job. You just keep going on.
It's not about the X's and the O's. It's the Jimmies and the Joes. This is why recruiting is so important in college football. They just had better players. More physical. They were faster, and it showed today.
That will put the wrap on things from here. For David Pollack and Jesse Palmer, I'm Reese Davis. You've been watching another presentation of EA Sports College Football.